The annual CEO Wheelchair Campaign is back for its 6th edition. The campaign challenging CEOs of any company to spend 24 hours in a wheelchair to raise awareness and compassion about the challenges of relying on a wheelchair for mobility. It's how our CEO is going to join in. I'm joined in studio by Xelda Rohrbeck from Little Eden Society, providing care for children and adults with disability. Xelda, thanks for coming in. Appreciate it. I see we have one of the wheelchairs with us as well, just so people can get a sense of what we're talking about when it comes to how difficult they are to maneuver around. And I'll tell you why I say that. My mom has been in a wheelchair for close to 30 years, and I am very, very aware of how difficult it is for people in wheelchairs, things that you and I would take for granted.
100%, and I think that's exactly the aim of the CEO Wheelchair Campaign. So Little Eden, like you said, cares for 300 children and adults with profound intellectual disability. And this campaign is really trying to get decision makers from a CEOs within any corporate to spend one day in a wheelchair in their businesses. And March is Intellectual Disability Awareness Month, so that's why we're launching this campaign in March and really challenging them to take up this campaign and to spend the day in a wheelchair.
You almost want to use the term walk a mile in their shoes, or as my mom used to say, push a mile in my chair as well. And I think it's about them getting a sense of the visceral reality of how difficult this is and the importance of this kind of care.
100%, and it really is. Spending that day in a wheelchair gives you such a different perspective. If you haven't done it before, you haven't navigated the passages, you haven't realized the angles that you've got to look at when you're speaking to somebody, you haven't navigated the realities of what your corporate setup is. So it
Sitting
really
behind a desk when you can't reach the computer.
100%. So it really is an opportunity for reflection, and that's the aim of the campaign, giving business leaders an opportunity to reflect. It also is a fundraising campaign for Little Eden, so we are challenging CEOs, and they're asking for a donation of 55,000 or 35,000 for SMEs, and really giving a interactive approach to disability, and especially mobility needs. People using wheelchairs have different mobility needs, and it's also that advocacy that comes with it, creating an absolute awareness within the disability sector that goes beyond just your day in the wheelchair.
Let's talk a little bit about Little Eden itself as well, because I can't imagine that there's enough money. There never is when it comes to NGOs that are dealing with physical and mental, for example, issues and people with various capabilities. There's never enough money, never mind the money needed for medication and care. But these wheelchairs, these are not cheap.
That's very true, Gareth. The cost is really at the level of frail care, and that takes intensive care, takes a large staff complement to make sure that we provide for all the needs of our special residents, physical, emotional, spiritual, and really making sure that they reach their full potential. So your financial constraints is a very real reality, and being in the disability sector is also a difficult sector to be in. It's a sector that's still very marginalized, stigmatized, and that's also the purpose of the campaign, is to really create that advocacy and awareness within an industry sector at large, so going well beyond the boundaries of Little Eden as well.
Let's talk about successes. It's been a couple of years now. How well received has this been in the past?
It has been well received, and I think it's given opportunity for CEOs to reflect on their businesses. There's been those that have had a very different approach to their businesses, have identified some shortcomings, but really the challenge is out there for more CEOs to take up this challenge, because without being physically involved, you're not getting that awareness. And it really is something that we all should be reflecting on. As an organization, we had the opportunity to do some renovations, and that even in an NGO space gave us an opportunity to reflect on doorways, passage sizes, incline of ramps. So it really is an ongoing awareness that needs to be created.
And when we start talking about the CEOs that have come on board as well, have they come back year after year, or is the goal that once a group of CEOs have come through for year one, that the next year it's a group of new CEOs, or do you like to see the same CEOs coming back, because that then shows that they're buying into the campaign?
We've had almost all our CEOs continuing on an annual basis, and I think that really creates that momentum, and I think it gives you a different perspective each year. You can't sit in that chair think you've experienced everything. You need that continuation, you need that awareness, and like you said, I think that momentum builds with the continuation with getting our CEOs. So for those that have attended, a big thank you, and for those that haven't, a big shout out and a big challenge to get involved.
And just talk to me, because I know it's for 24 hours. Is there a particular date in mind here? I know you mentioned March is go time for the campaign as well. Is there a particular day in mind, or is this any time through March? So maybe there's a CEO watching at the moment. He or she is thinking, well, maybe I should get involved in this. Where do we start going to get them in a wheelchair?
So the focus is definitely March, being Intellectual Disability Awareness Month, and it's choosing any day within the week or your work day to spend the day in a wheelchair. And we're wanting to do it at the workplace. And I think the excitement as well is you can get your whole team involved. We focus on CEOs because they are the decision makers. They have the ability to challenge what goes on in a corporate. But it's an opportunity for each and every person to spend some time in that chair because the perspective is really very real. And then absolutely the opportunity to go beyond March. If the momentum goes, absolutely the opportunity is there.
It shouldn't be just a case of March. It should be the springboard to be used as a catalyst for the rest of the year. So it's a good time to be starting this as well. I can't help but think you even got a lot of private schools at the moment which will have CEOs. They run more like businesses than, for example, public schools. And I remember having this discussion with two pupils a couple of years ago now, before COVID even, and they were in wheelchairs, and they were explaining their matric year to me, ramps that they couldn't get up without assistance. They couldn't get close enough to the school entrances because of where their parents had to park, bathrooms, which becomes a dignity issue as well. What about CEOs of, for example, these private schools? Maybe we challenge them as well.
Oh, I think the opportunity is definitely out there. And it really, this is exactly what the aim is. It's giving you that opportunity to critically analyze and reflect on how is your infrastructure set up? Where are those shortcomings? Because unless you have somebody in a chair needing to make use of a wheelchair for their mobility needs, those opportunities and shortcomings are not always identified. So definitely the challenge is out there for corporates, for schools, for anybody that makes use of any form of facility for getting to any space within their working space.
I'm going to ask this as a last question, just two things then. What the money that we're talking about as far as donations are concerned, what does that money go to? I think people would be curious to know where that's going. And then two, if someone does want to get involved, just send me to some websites or social media.
Okay. So the money goes directly to the care of our residents, and it takes 13,500 Rand per resident per month for the level of care that we provide. So we have identified it's a large need, and it will go directly to their care. So that is really what the aim of the fundraising campaign is also all about. And the easiest way to get hold of us is through our website, littleeden.org.za.
littleeden.org.za. Xelda, thank you very much, and all the very best. I'd like to see if we can follow up with this as well, see if we can get as many CEOs into wheelchairs, just to give them a sense, the reality, the lived reality of those who are in wheelchairs around the country. All the very best for the campaign. Hopefully we talk again afterwards, and it's a huge success. So there you have it. If you'd like to get more details, littleeden.org.za. Maybe you are a CEO watching, small business, big business, corporate even, who knows. You're welcome to head over to the website and take part in this, all for a good cause as well, but also it can give you a real sense of how difficult it is for people in wheelchairs to do what you and I possibly take for granted. My thanks to Xelda Rohrbeck coming in from Little Eden.